County or San Diego.
Yeah. Excellent. Okay, well, thank you. Well, then, thank you all for the round of introductions. Did we want to, Kyoko, did you want to say any words before we kick off the featured discussion here?
No, let's start with Cecilia.
Okay. Well, hello, everyone. I'm Cecilia, and I was actually interested in sort of this conversation overall of, everyone coming together and, working towards common efforts, because I am part of the Bay Area Coalition, one of the co-founders that we started back in 2022. And we have about 26 partners, and really the concept behind it is that, why set up, as you alluded to, Bob, why set up individual canvassing events or phone bank events or anything when, join together, because it takes just as much work to set up one with 5 people as it does to set up one with like 50 people. So let's make it easier on ourselves so we can get more done. Kyoko had asked me to talk a little bit about canvassing because we had a wonderful canvassing effort, and actually, since we're in the Central Valley, you could always go north from San Fernando Valley as well, so it's certainly pertinent for that as well. And this is what we have sort of set up with this with the Bay Area Coalition, and I maybe wanted to start, and you guys probably know all of these stats already, but how important canvassing is. We were just talking to Jonathan Hull, which some of you may know him, who worked very closely with KDEM recently to come up with sort of the data analysis for CD22, which we lost by 3,100 votes, which just hurts. And the importance of canvassing is 16% of the doors were answered. So that's about 49,000 doors that we knocked on, and 16% of them opened the door. And that produced, after we looked at the statistics, somewhere, it's never exact, but somewhere between well over 300 to about 1,600 Salas votes. And considering he only lost by 3,100, that's a big difference that canvassing helped.
Did you say that the door opening percentage was 60%?
16. 16. Yeah. Okay. I wish it was 60.
I know. I was going to say you're doing something right. Yeah.
Yeah. No, 16. So that really points out how valuable and how important it's going to be if canvassing in 2024 in a presidential election. We're actually splitting it, sort of the whole canvassing effort, into 2 sort of parts this year, since we're in sort of a allegedly off year, although there's no off years right now. But we're doing voter registration right now. And with that focus, and we're focusing on 13 and 22, because those are really the critical ones. We were actually looking at IE expenditures for 9, which, although it's very close to the Bay Area, IE spent something like $150,000 in 9, which they're the ones that really do all the polling, which shows that they don't think that it's a winnable seat for other than Harder. But the 20 million, I think it was 15 million, something like that, was spent in 22 and 13 respectively. I mean, those are where the IEs are spending the money, which shows that that's where they think that those are seats that really we need to pay attention to. So we've started with voter registration in 13 and 22. And what we've done is we've developed sort of a working group that meets every couple weeks. You guys may know Judith Bolker, I'm sure. So she and I are chairing this effort. And we meet bi-weekly. We're also working very closely with KDEM because they now have 3 paid organizers that are working in 13 and 22. which is huge, because they are full-time paid organizers, and they're actually about to hire a fourth person to focus on the Latino community. And I don't think they have hired that person yet. But we're following, in putting this all together, we're following the Field Team 6 approach, which is, you know, if you have two people, you have a voter registration drive. It doesn't have to be big, it can just be two people. We've put together like what we call voter registration in a box, so that people can be leaders. We can have multiple leaders all over. We provide all of sort of the tips and tricks and materials and training for leaders who want to do that. Again, two people is all it takes. And we've already had a couple just launched these over the last couple weeks. We have, hold on, just.
And no worries, no worries. So while we wait on her, a question that I wanted to bring up, and Kyoko, maybe you might know this. What the phrase IE, is that in independent groups that are investing in the various? You're muted.
I don't know. So that's a question for
Okay.
Cecilia.
Okay.
Yeah, I had that question too. I think where it could stand.
I figured maybe it was just me, but I'll bring that up then. Yeah.
Thanks for asking that. And then the other thing was the percentage that 22 was lost in. I didn't think it was really that close. I mean, close races are close, you know, I mean, they're like 1% or something. What was the percentage of, do you know what the 22 race, what the percentage was?
Numbers. C13 was
Okay.
less than 600.
I am so sorry.
No
I
worries.
got a
No worries.
tickle in my throat.
Yeah. No, we're glad you're all right.
Well, I didn't choke. I went to get some water. You're turning red.
Yeah.
There's a
Before
reason why I'm not a politician, because politicians never do that.
before you get moving, a question we
Yeah.
had for you was the
Uh-huh.
do you use the phrase IE to tracking the various groups that are spending in the various
Yes,
areas? What does IE stand for?
those are independent expenditure groups. So
Okay.
they're people who are not beholden to anyone, and it's kind of mystery money, if you will.
Got it.
And they're the ones that they only spend their money based upon their polling, and they do a lot of polling. So they really know, you can sort of tell where what races are winnable or not,
By tracking that.
by tracking.
Yeah.
So they're not going to waste their money somewhere else.
Nadine, you had a question?
Yeah, you know, I wanted to ask you the question because you would probably know it best, Cecilia. I would, you know, because I'm really OCD about this. I look at the races and what percentage, you know, and I follow it for, you know, until the last thing is counted. And I don't think 22 was that close. I think, was it like 3%? What is that? You said 3,000 votes. What did it come down to? Because a close race is like 1%. I mean,
yes,
I think,
well, it wasn't, I mean, it could have been closer, but
I mean, what is that? You should know, but I don't know. Do you know what the percentage is? It just a math?
I don't know what the percentage was. I just know the number. So
Okay,
unfortunately,
well, that would be good to figure out sometime because
yeah, I probably have it
how
somewhere and I don't remember it too.
I
So
don't remember it either. Yeah. Okay. So thanks anyway.
So the wait a minute.
Here goes.
Total vote was 102,000 and it was 3,000. So it's literally just less than 3%.
Yeah.
okay.
So I mean, that's not as close as say the TJ Cox was, I think.
Yep.
And
That is right. Yeah, TJ Cox lost by about 1,500 votes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So we got a steeper thing to climb is what I'm
right.
saying.
Yeah.
What's interesting is that the Democrats solidly outnumber the Republicans in CD22. But the ads were so vitriolic in CD22. I mean, and just absolutely falsehoods that were just blatantly lies, but it didn't matter. And I noticed that when we were canvassing there, Solid Democrats would actually, we were persuading solid Democrats up until the last day to actually vote, which was an interesting dynamic because usually you don't have to persuade solid Democrats. But the ads were just so bad. And that's all came from IEs.
Yeah, and also these are the new districts, so the name
Yes.
recognition, of course, as a congressman, but David Valedao,
Yeah.
had a better name recognition. And overall in California last year, the Hispanic population did not go out and vote. And that's really hurt these Democrats in many ways.
Right,
And
that's right.
it was even in Bay Area, so.
Right, yeah. So we're really trying to go out and Judith and I were talking, and it would be fabulous if we could get 15,000 new voters in by the time 2024 rolls around. That would be a stretch goal. But why not?
That would solidly turn the race, right?
Oh, yes.
I mean, that would be it. Okay, so okay.
That's a stretch goal. So
Yeah.
you got to have them.
Yeah.
So what we've done, and I can't remember exactly where I left off when I had a coughing fit there, but
You were
we
talking
have
about
a voter registration in a box.
Exactly.
We have business cards that are about to be printed that have like voting, where to vote, not where to vote, but remember to vote, so that we can hand out to people. It's both English and Spanish. We have little stickers that say Vota Central Valley. So we provide all of those things. It's also possible, and we did this last year with the canvassing, that we will have stipend money for the canvassers. That was huge last year. And this is money that was given to us through the central committees from all of our Congress members for the sole purpose of volunteer stipends. And we decided last year that it's like $100 for a trip down there for a one-day canvassing thing that we would give out. That is a big deal because gas is expensive. Even if you're just going to Fresno or Merced or something, it's expensive to go there and back. So we don't have those. That's on me to start working with our Congress members to get more money. We had about $30,000 that we were able to spend last year on stipends, which is fabulous. So that will be, I'm hopefully will come up for voter registration as well, along with when we do canvassing, which I'll talk about in just a moment. So that is what voter registration is right now. And I'll actually drop in the chat because we have a list of all of we have one this Saturday, one next Saturday in Merced, one this, I think it's Merced is the next one. I'll drop it in the chat. I can't remember exactly where they are, but we have, I think, 3 on the books right now. And then we're trying to get them. So there's like 2 or 3 or 4 of them every weekend going, again, led by small groups. I just want to make a note. It was interesting. We had one last weekend. We went to the Apricot Festival in Patterson, which is, by the way, only an hour and a half from the Bay Area. And it sounded fabulous just to be the Apricot Festival, but what was interesting is they didn't get any voter registrations, which is sad. But what they did find is that they had some really, that they were targeting young kids there. The kids were more interested in eating cotton candy and stuff and not, registering. But what they found was they had some fabulous, meaningful conversations with all these kids. So that is probably even more important than the actual voter registration form, to have those meaningful conversations and develop a presence. This particular group, they've sort of adopted Patterson, and I might even suggest that for Tri-Valley. swing left, that you could even adopt like a little town or a city, and get to know the people there and become a trusted source, if you will, for this voter registration work. That's what this group is doing in Patterson. Although other people are welcome to join them as well in Patterson.
Yep. So
I mean-
one thing, when we had done that in 2018, we worked with the Tracy grassroots
Mhm,
organizing team
mhm.
on the spot. We had a lot of luck with working with organizations that were, firmly based in that location.
Yes,
That
you
could-
got to do that.
Exactly, that
They
could
know the
guide us.
locale, but we don't
Exactly.
know that. We're Bay Area people.
Exactly. So we're just driving out there. It's like, what do I do? Where do I go? Kind of thing. Is that in place this year? Does Patterson have sort of a coordinating group?
So what we've been doing is that we're trying to develop leaders that will help train and coach you and all of that stuff, that will actually start reaching out to these small cities individually. We have some contacts in the Central Valley scattered throughout, but they sometimes are just going to offer references to these smaller communities. But we have quite a few, at least contacts there, helped a lot with these KDEM people who are on the ground, that can help make introductions and then adopt these small communities. Because even if they're small, a few hundred votes in a lot of small communities is a lot.
A quick
Yeah,
question.
especially when we lost by 600 votes.
Oh yeah, and not in 13, yeah, that was just painful.
Yeah.
I think I heard another question. Bill,
Bill, yeah.
was that you?
Yes, yeah. So you mentioned meaningful conversations, but no voter registration. Is there a way to explain that? I mean, people did not want to register to vote, or were they already registered?
So I didn't actually talk to the person who was leading the effort. We had about 6 or 7 people. And so I'm not sure why they didn't, other than what I heard again secondhand was that the kids that they were talking to just didn't want to deal with that. They were going to their rides and whatever else they have at the fair. And so it wasn't the best time to actually register voters at a fair. But it was good to, I guess I always look at it when you are talking to the people who went, if they didn't think they had meaningful conversations, they would say this was a waste of time and I didn't get anything. But they had enough conversations that all of them are like, wow, that was really good. We had some good conversations. We want to go back. So that actually said more to me than
Yeah.
just words. If that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So that's all the voter registration. And if you guys are interested, we do have a meeting. I'm just looking at my calendar. I think it is, I'm gonna have to let you know. I don't know when our oops, hold on. When our next voter registration meeting is. But we have them every 2 weeks. And it's actually a very lively group. And if anyone is welcome to join who is interested in leading these, or even kind of considering leading, or like, maybe I want to lead, you're welcome. And I'll get you the information, Kyoko, so that you have the information for that if anyone wants to join.
Yeah, so I missed that meeting last night, huh?
Oh, was it last night?
I think so.
I
Tuesday.
clearly missed it too.
Oh my gosh, okay.
I had some conflicts yesterday too. So
Yeah, so
oh,
anyway,
that was our partner meeting last night.
yeah, partner meeting.
Yeah.
Mhm.
This is a meeting that's solely focused on voter registration.
Voter registration. Yeah, so what I'm actually interested in is actually getting connected to the Patterson. Patterson is really close from us.
Yes.
So
It's
we
right
can-
over the hill, I think.
Yes, it is. It's just a little bit further than Tracy, but it's
Uh-huh.
probably is
Mhm,
just over 30 minutes drive.
mhm, mhm.
And another thing is, I also organize as an individual. and the individual to endorse the candidate, I need to actually have the team in the district.
Yes, yes.
We don't have right now. So even if just like on paper
Yeah,
or
yeah. Oh, yeah.
and I can actually help them organize.
Okay.
That's
So,
what
so do you know Pam Tello?
no. I
Okay.
don't have anybody in Patterson.
Oh, no, she's in Berkeley.
Okay.
With Indivisible Berkeley, I think.
Okay.
Anyway, she's the one who's leading the Patterson effort. So I can make introductions with you, and you could partner together with. I'm sure she would love some extra help too.
Yeah.
Yoko, if we're looking to have the Tri-Valley teams focus on Patterson, which makes sense. I mean, last time we did Tracy very successfully. Just go over the hill and show up for canvassing work. We could bring Pam to the next meeting to talk about what's going on.
Yeah. So I will make sure I will make that introduction for you, Kyoko.
Okay. And so do you have any target dates to start canvassing itself?
So leaving voter registration, and I will say later on in the year, we are going to do voter registration door to door later in the year to unregistered voters. But that will be later in 2023. So probably, yeah, much later. So certainly not during the summer. And that will be forthcoming.
Okay.
So
And
then
another
go
big
ahead.
question or elephant in the room is who's running?
Oh, so Salas is running and Gray is running. Now Gray, however, is going to be Phil Urbio is also going to be in a primary with him. But it will be Gray and Urbio in the primary. So when we are doing things in 13, we're obviously being very we're focusing on issues and not necessarily candidates.
Yeah.
Right now, Salas doesn't have anyone else in the race, but we're still focusing on issues because someone could get in the race at any moment. Nadine.
Yeah.
Earlier it was mentioned about stipend, and it was sort of implied that it was for people who were coming a distance and gas and stuff. But what I think is really important is for the young people in the area who don't have the wherewithal to work for nothing, like me. I'm a retired teacher, and so yeah, is there a stipend or is it called something else to try to give them? It's not like bribing, it's paying someone for doing what they want to do, but that they can get paid for it.
So
for canvassing, I mean, in terms of canvassing
So I will say a couple of things about the stipends. First off, I can only go up to $500 in total for the year per person, because otherwise it turns into a 1099 employee relationship. Depending upon the circumstances, if there are local people, we haven't done that in the past for no reason other than we just haven't. So I guess I'm not sure. I haven't really thought of it before. So, but it's a good thought.
I heard you some money is going to organizers, but I was in some sort of analysis meetings. I think it was in Pennsylvania or something on Zooms where the guy broke it down. And he says, we've really got to start thinking about paying people, that because that's how you bring in young people who may not be able to just do this just for the goodness of their heart.
Agree. Now,
and
I will
500 that would be worthwhile. It's not like a full-time job, but yeah. Okay.
And I will say that there are a number of groups out there who are paying people in the Central Valley, and I can only speak to the Salas campaign from last year, but they had probably a team of maybe 50 or more people that were paid full-time for like a number of months to do canvassing. So these campaigns do pay. And it's usually around 25 or $30 an hour, I think, too. So it's decent work. It's hard work, but so that is also when these campaigns come to fruition, they do pay canvassers. But let me switch to the canvassing piece because we're sort of dancing around that, and that we'll really pick that up in full later in 2023 and 24, where it's a little bit more tightly organized from a central perspective. And certainly the stipends will ramp up there. And I will say that KDAM has also, this was in 22, I suspect they will do the same thing in 24, is they also paid for lunches for everyone that canvassed, which is also, again, additional things. And when we cleared ballots, they actually paid for hotel rooms. Whether they would do that again, I don't know if they would. But how we've organized the canvassing, I'm actually kind of proud of what we set up with the Bay Area Coalition. But again, it's all of these groups coming together so that we sort of organize it centrally. But we set up a concierge service, sort of a canvassing concierge service. It sounded fancy, so we named it that. And we had a person for Northern 22 and Southern 22, two different concierge teams. And they really got to know the people who signed up, made sure that they knew when they were arriving, how they were arriving, if they needed carpools. I was surprised at the number of people came from San Francisco. Well, you signed up and this sign, so you look like you live near each other, and they turned out like they were right around the street from each other, never met, but they were both coming from different groups and met and drove down together. So we'll match people up, sort of matchmaking on carpools. We get, things like, do you have food allergies or anything, so that we know what lunches to get for people. Just all of the logistics that are so important. And because that concierge develops a relationship, the people almost always have 100% turn up rate. They never flake because they've had such one-on-one conversations. And then there's always a staging location manager there. I did that every weekend in 22. And that makes sure that, everything, although I come myself or someone else would always come the night before to make sure everything was set up, clipboards, et cetera, all those things. Check out the turf to make sure it's a good turf, and work with the campaign to, if it wasn't a good turf, do that again, because my canvassers are not going out on that. Then just stage all of the things that a staging location person needs to do. And then, of course, hand out stipends as when people come and do the thing. So it was really actually quite organized. I was very proud of what we did. It turned just that really, it was a very high touch canvas. It wasn't just, people signing up on Mobilize and gosh, I hope they show up. It was, we knew exactly who was going to show up and when they were going to show up and who they were driving with and everything, which was the concierge people. It was a sort of a full-time job for them, but well worth it. And everyone always had a really good experience too. So we will be doing that again this year, but that will be very late in 23 and early 24.
Question. For canvassing, do you only talk with Democrats or do you talk with everybody? And do you have a list of Democrats in the area?
Yes, so we only talk with Democrats. That's what I mentioned when we go over the turf. I sort of call it doing the walking your turf from your couch, because the staging manager will always go through and walk the turf from my couch to make sure that I can see, okay, these are all Democrats. There's always going to be a Republican that sneaks in there, but for the most part, they're Democrats. And they're also densely populated, so you're not walking 3 blocks between houses. You know, all of the things that make a good turf for a volunteer experience. So yes, but only Dems. So there might be some, and I should actually caveat that they call it Dems Plus. And the plus means that it's people who may be NPP, but they like have donated to Sierra Club, they shop at, you know, Trader Joe's, they, you know, they have other factors in there that would make them a NPP that votes Democratic.
I just wanted to share one experience that I had canvassing in my area. I found very good response when I just told them I live in the area. I'm, you know, Domoen,
Yes.
and I'm in the neighborhood, and here's what I'm doing. So getting somebody from the neighborhood to canvass with us would be ideal if we can just hire somebody.
Well, you know, it's interesting you say that, and I do agree that it's nice to have neighbors talking to neighbors. But I've also heard over and over again from the canvassers that it really makes a difference when they say, well, you're not from here. Why are you here? And the really the passionate response of, this is so important to me that I'm spending my time coming down here to talk to you. And that oftentimes makes a huge difference, as much of a difference as a neighbor talking to a neighbor.
Thank you.
And of
Other-
course, the challenge over there is majority Hispanic, Latino.
Yes, yes. So, well, and I guess it's sort of yes and no, because there are a lot of people who speak English. We always we had the campaign, the Salas campaign was had its issues in 22, and didn't always have bilingual lit available for us, but I think that will not happen again. So we will always have lit, and most times it's rare that you're going to meet someone that is monolingual.
That's true.
They are bilingual, and they really did emphasize to us that to never assume and just start talking Spanish to them, because they are proud of being able to speak English. And you know, they may, and if they don't, then and it's interesting what we also did, and this worked by having a staging manager at the sort of hanging back. And my phone was ringing all the time, that the canvassers, they would reach someone who was monolingual. They would have a little sentence as far as, you know, what to say, and they would call me, and I would always have someone with me locally who was completely bilingual, and we would just put them on the phone and give, so it would be sort of a phone bank at a distance. And that was actually extremely effective, because they were still at the door, and then the person, you know, who was talking to them would sort of tell the canvasser, oh, they asked for X, Y, and Z, and can you hand them this and hand them that, or and tell them, you know, are they strong ID or for Salas or not. So that worked actually really well. So you're still going to the door, and they're still getting someone to speak to them in Spanish. Other
Great.
questions?
So with regards the other activities the Bay Area Coalition's doing, what could you walk us through briefly some of the I guess some of the phone banks or other actions? Yeah.
Sure. So right now, we are just promoting partner phone banks right now through July 19th. And then our phone banks will pick up on July 19th. We will be calling into 13 and 22. Also, the Virginia State Legislature races, and the Ohio, which is, I think, what's that, July? I forget what the date of that election is, where it's a vote no on the constitutional amendment for Ohio. So it's Virginia, Ohio, and 13 and 22 that we are focusing on our phone banks. I'll actually put in the chat, or you know what, I'll send it. I don't have it right handy to me, but I'll send you the links, all the links that we have for that, Kyoko, for the partner events. And then starting on the 22nd, excuse me, July 19th, then we will starting up the Bay Area Coalition phone banks.
Right. Thank you
And then,
so much.
and then I think, and then also we are looking to have a number of trainings and speaker events that we're working on right now. I think Shannon Watts is on for, I can't remember what date. We may not have a final date yet. So she's going to be speaking pretty soon. And there was someone else that was pretty famous as well that we were going to have as a speaker, sort of these speaker series. And then we're looking to get, I don't know if any of you guys attended the Words That Win event that Sister District and Swing Left Peninsula put on about a month ago, I think it was. And it was suggested by Simon Rosenberg. It was a fabulous how to talk to voters, starting with your values. So you actually start with your value proposition and then tell what the other side is doing, and then lead with, so what are you going to do about it? And it was very effective. So we're going to try and put another one of those together as well. But we do have, in addition to that, we do have our trainings are mostly focused on how to talk to voters, because it's those really meaningful conversations of, to really, as you guys know, if you've canvassed, and I know a lot of you guys have, that those conversations of where you're almost in tears talking to someone. I mean, I remember some of my canvassing is like, wow, I'm never forgetting that. I hope that they remember it too, but I certainly remember them vividly. So how do you have those conversations?
Yeah, thank you so much.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so I will send you a bunch of stuff, Kyoko,
Yes.
and then you can distribute as needed.
Yeah, it's time. But as
Yes.
you can see, my even core group is not here. So
Yes.
that's the problem.
Yes. Well,
We
it's
have-
summertime. People are
Yeah,
on
yeah.
vacation.
And we'll get the habit back into the team for meeting back up. That's what we're starting off here. So
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. No, well,
Excellent.
thank you so much for inviting me here.
Well, thank you.
I really appreciate it. And
Yep.
yeah, if it would be fabulous if we can get some more leaders into doing some of this voter registration, particularly the areas that are still in 13, but just on the other side of the hill.
Yeah,
That
but like Panasonic, I don't know how much voters we need to register. That's one of the question, right? Because the motor, automotive voter registration
Yeah.
is happening. So like in Tri-Valley, we are only focusing on the high school students. So the pre-registration will make habit to start registering, voting. That needs to be done. So if we can actually get the high school, that's the best
Right.
one to actually, yeah.
Right.
And
I forgot, I was talking to someone about high school and the possibility of, actually meeting with like their civics instructor or their teacher
yeah,
or
the
their
civic teachers, yeah. I should talk to my friend.
and even like the community colleges too, like the political science professors. And what was interesting, I heard this great sort of the way they presented it at one of the high schools I forget who was telling me this, but they said, they decided, well, let's talk about, George Washington and, and what do you know about George Washington? And they all, all of the things that George Washington, first president and all that stuff. And so how many of you would vote for him? And everyone raised their hand and the moderator said, well, you couldn't vote because you're a girl. You couldn't vote because he didn't own land. You couldn't vote. And it turned out no one in the class could vote for him. And it was like, oh, and it sort of hit home to them like,
Mhm.
oh, yeah, this means something that I have the ability to vote. And without doing that, like, because they were all excited, I got to vote for George Washington. No, you can't. So anyway, that's an
good.
idea
Mhm.
for having a little presentation for them.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you very
Excellent. Yep.
much.
Th-
Happy to come back at any time as this proceeds, and please reach out. I am always available to help get things started. So
Yeah, so once, but primarily it's March, so we cannot really. If there is no challenges, we can have the do this
Yeah.
as
but
come and
we're
talk,
really
right?
talking about issues. Issues are equally important. Sort
Yeah,
of,
but the thing is to get volunteers join.
yeah. No, that's
We
true.
need to have candidate. That's great.
Yeah,
And
you
I
need-
don't want to go to the Josh Harder. I can get him anytime, but we're not going to him. So.
Yeah, if it's the same as last year, he doesn't need, I wouldn't say this to his campaign, but it's 13 and 22 that need the help.
Yeah, because CN9, it's solid blue. Actually, solid purple, I should say.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
But
so.
yeah, it's the other ones that lost the house.
Yep.
So,
Exactly.
but we'll get it back.
Yes, we will. Yes, we will.
Okay, thank you very
Excellent.
much, you guys.
Thank you again. Yep.
Okay.
Have a wonderful
All
night.
right, you too.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, so Kyoko, any last thoughts for team here? Otherwise, I mean that was the primary targets for tonight.
Yeah, and I just want to show a little bit about the Virginia. So I'm gonna just share the screen. Where is it? Oh, here it is. So I did kind of a little bit of the checking where we are in Virginia election. So this is these are the numbers. So we have a bunch of people in different places working in Virginia elections. And of course, Chista district is already, raising money for certain, the 4 candidates they picked. So they are not contesting for the primary, so they can endorse and start working on it. So Joshua Cole, House 65, Michael Fagans 97, and Senate Shure von Valkenburg and Danica Lauren. So those are the 4 candidates they are already working on. And since Andrea Miller of the Center for Common Ground, who does home banking and postcarding, she is in Virginia. So she is now working on the women candidate in the primary. Those are the 13, 11, and 18. But those are actually the stronghold of the Dems. So what she's trying to get is a women candidate to win and a more progressive one to go forward in those blue districts. So they are not at all my targets. That's why I haven't been really pushing anything. And very similar with the sister district. So like Joshoko this is actually the 2022 Democratic votes percentage. That's the column D. So Joshoko is 54, like other one. So you can actually see everybody's over like 53%. Those are the candidates they picked. So their strategy is more like, let's get low-hanging fruit first. We have to have those become solid. So that's their primary goal. And that was really the strategy they took in 2022. So all their candidates won. Yes, they did great job, but also they picked the ones which more likely to win, but it's vulnerable. So we have to show them up. Those are the people they actually picked. So I have a little bit of problem with that, but that's also need to be done. So that's okay. And the next question is where we should actually go and help from tribal, because we cannot do everybody, and it's possible if we can pick one person, one district, and work on it, we may be able to change, because these are the small numbers of voters we are working on. So we have to wait until the primary is done and who becomes a candidate. But these are the possible candidates' names I picked up. So there is one website, and I can send you everybody on that one. And all this information is available. So I'm pretty sure.
Wonderful, thank you.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure that the Bay Area Coalition also will pick one of these candidates. If not, I'm not really sure what Andrea is going to do after the primary. So it's kind of up in the air. But there are certain candidates we really would like to push because they are more progressive. But I was originally thinking about Alex Askew, who we helped 4 years ago, maybe a good candidate, but his districts became solid blue, so there was no reason to do that.
Yeah,
so
yeah, no,
that's
that makes sense.
where we are. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you. That'll be helpful so that we know, who to focus our energy on.
Mhm.
Okay, excellent. Nadine, Bill, any last comments?
Just ready to say goodnight. I think I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent. Well, thank you all very much. Thanks for holding on through here. I've got some notes that I'll put together from the meeting, and I'll send out with the next team update.
Right. Thank you.
Excellent. Okay.